smartest guys around are about to break it down like they won the game a million times.
Yeah!
At all?
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Stephen without a doubt got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Yes, that's right. We're back, baby.
Woo!
The season can officially start because Stephen Fishbach is here. Stephen, how are you?
I gotta say, I really prefer doing the after show immediately after the show, because then, even if I say conventional, obvious things, at least I'm saying them first, you know?
Saying them
And
first.
yeah, because like now probably a lot of people have said the conventional, obvious things that I'm going to say, and now it's like, oh, Fishbach's just repeating what Owen said last night.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit worrying.
Yeah, but that would imply that you listened to the show I did with Owen last night, and there's
Yeah, but
no way that happened.
No, I could always claim primacy though, you know, if I was the one just, you know, right then, right at the start. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, maybe rehashing takes from Twitter, but you're not listening to any podcast before you come on here.
No, or ever.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. It's Thursday afternoon, and so we talked about this last night. Now, Stephen had some another mitzvah.
Yeah, thank you. My gosh. I was trying to think of something funny, but I'm too tired. Yeah, we have a second little girl, which has been really wonderful and
Hashtag girl dad.
Yeah.
You know, this is how Jeremy and Val got started, and then maybe like 10, 15 years down the road, maybe some more babies.
Yeah, that's what Jeremy keeps telling me. I'm like, no, I think this might be it for me. I mean, Jeremy's 10, 15 years down the road was like when he was as old as I am now. Like my 10, 15 years down the road, I don't think I'm going to be an appropriate age. I mean, I can't do it now. I'm too old for this. Like truly.
Mhm.
I'm a frail, worn out man. But it's wonderful and a life's blessing and very tiring.
Yeah. Okay. So very happy to have a punch drunk Stephen here with
that's
us
the
on
other
a
thing.
Thursday.
Yeah.
And so that what we're planning on doing here for the foreseeable future is I'll have different guests with me on Wednesday night, and then try to get Stephen here with us on a Thursday here. So a little bit of a mix up, but it should be a fun one. Even the other Survivor alumni are congratulating you, Stephen.
Oh, that's
Congratulations.
nice. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah, and she'll come babysit anytime. Wow.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Lindsay,
Tonight.
where's that offer for me?
Yeah.
Please. Oh, even
I live in Washington,
even
D.C.
even Uncle Bruce.
Oh my gosh,
congratulations,
Is he in
Stephen.
the chat, or is that just like coming in from somewhere else? Is he
Coming in from the chat.
Wow.
Everybody's
Bruce is in the
dying to
chat.
hear what you
My
have to say
gosh,
about the
that's so
premiere.
exciting. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a lot of pressure though if someone from the season is. I mean, unfortunately, I love Bruce, so it's a lot of pressure if someone from the
Yeah,
season.
it seems like you're holding up great, and I really do appreciate you making time with everything you have going on to be here. That
Oh my God, it's my
it's
pleasure.
it never gets old for me talking to you about Survivor.
Just
so
wait. Tonight, I mean, tonight I really may
wait,
have,
what is this year 11 of this?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Yeah. Wow.
All right. So we're here. We're live. And so we're able to take questions from the chat. I got questions from the Rob Is a Podcast patron Facebook group. Speaking of the patron group, we're going to be bringing back the patron perk of the Survivor Q&A this season. So once a week, I'll go live and take questions from our patron callers. The first of those calls is going to be actually tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Chappelle is going to join me, and we will take questions from the patrons live tonight at 6 p.m. I sent out the link to the patrons just before we jumped on here. All right. So, Stephen, all right, we are one episode into Survivor 45. Well, what was your opinion on what we saw yesterday?
First of all, I saw it this morning, half of yesterday. I watched up to the point yesterday when they all jumped in the water and like 4 of them jumped in with their shoes on.
Yes, you had a big take on the shoes. I was
really
like, I saw your tweet. I think I saw the second tweet first of like, you're like, I still can't get over the thing with the shoes. I'm like, what happened with the shoes?
Yeah. So the Red Tribe, which was J Maya and somebody else jumped in and
Yeah.
I think Kelly sensibly jumped in and took their shoes off for a swimming challenge, which, kind of makes sense. Then the blue tribe, which was Sean and Brandon, jumped in, shoes on, and I'm sorry, yellow tribe, Lulu, and then the Bellow tribe jumped,
one person
also
to
shoes on
off first, and then I think that then ultimately that would everybody would do it. Now, okay, so go back to second chance. Was that a marooning?
Well, so the way it worked was like we also had like boats pull up to the raft, and we were sort of like marooned on the raft because like Jeff was like jump in. These guys got to climb straight from their boats. We had to jump into the water and swim over to the boat, so we had it harder back then. Yeah, so we couldn't take our shoes off because that was all the stuff you're gonna get. But once you're on the boat, you can take your shoes off to jump back into the water. Obviously, you're a swimming challenge. I mean, kudos to the to the yellow people. They managed to make it back to the boat first, so in spite of their shoes. But you have to wonder if like the shoes situation might have affected Brandon, waterlogged shoes trying to climb the ladder. Like
I thought it was more the pants than the shoes in terms of climbing up there. That I feel like that you see people jump in the ocean with pants on early on in Survivor. I feel like that's also a big problem.
I feel like that happened in Survivor Samoa, like in like the first challenge.
Yes,
like one of the swimmers jumped in with pants with like jeans on.
I think it was Fincher. Yeah,
Fincher jumped in with the pants.
I think he tried to swim with jeans on, and then I think sort of like was saying like they need like who's your fastest swimmer, and I think that he might have volunteered, and then he's like, yeah, I didn't think that it'd be so tough to swim with jeans on, but it is. You don't realize that. Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, other than the shoe situation, I thought it was a very fun episode. A lot of like big erratic personalities, which of course is great. I mean, I wasn't expecting to like connect with any one contestant out of the gate because I haven't like recently like felt like, oh my gosh, this is my rootable contestant recently, as I have with Sabaya, who's my like by far my favorite contestant.
So what is it about Sabaya that really speaks to you? Now you don't know this, but Sabaya is actually my winner pick for the season. So
I'm in on that winner.
This is a big red flag for Sabaya that both of us. I don't think it's ever really happened before that we're keyed in on the same person.
No, I don't think ever. That's true. Wow, gosh.
Because to me, so Sabaya was my winner pick, and in going through it, like a lot of times, like I really struggle with, I don't know, I don't see, I'll go with this person, but this was like a no doubter for me. So what did you see? And it was not a trendy pick, also that a ton of people weren't saying go with Sabaya.
So I get it. Like you liked the band before they were cool, and now like I'm kind of hopping on the bandwagon.
No, I'm just I think it's interesting because you typically don't make a winner pick, but that I saw that you had said on Twitter that you were really super impressed. So what was it that you were seeing?
Well, first of all, I mean, obviously she just seems to be up for everything. She's doing great at the challenges. She's very strategic and social at camp. I just loved her attitude though overall. Like it was like I'm up for this. I'm excited. This is an adventure. There's something about a lot of recent Survivor contestants where they more seem like meta excited. Like I'm on Survivor. I have to do all the Survivor things. And like, let me do this in a Survivor-y way. And that like used to be kind of fun when it was like one or two people doing it, like when Cochran did it, and like that was sort of like new and like for the show to be self-referential. But now it seems like it's like 95% of the contestants are self-referential.
Prerequisite.
Yeah. And I didn't get that vibe from her. She more seemed to be like having a genuine experience. I mean, who knows, right? Obviously so much of that is what we see, in the produced TV show, but just in terms of her confessionals, they seem to be more her reacting to experiences and less of like, let me like perform Survivorness for everybody out there. She obviously did really well. She seemed to be like in the decisive decision making. I'm very tired. A position on her tribe, and
you're in touch with like what it's like to be on Survivor, right? Because this is like how you felt as a Survivor player.
Exactly. And then also her like kind of like interesting profession too. Like how do you not root for like a truck driver veteran? Like what like as opposed to like the 80 different generic white collar random sort of like knowledge work. Can't really articulate what you do, but I know that it seems sort of impressive on a resume. I don't know. Why were you in on Sabaya early?
I just in listening to her interviews from pregame that I thought that she talked about something that I thought was very interesting, that she has this background where she was in the military, and I don't want to get it wrong on what branch of the service that she was in, but she, has this background of like leadership. And she talked about how a lot of people come into Survivor in the modern era and they really want to have like this like beta mentality of like, okay, well, I'll just like go with the flow and I'm not going to do my own thing. And that I think that this vacuum of leadership, I felt like was something that she was going to play like a more assertive game, but not necessarily like she's somebody who I think in the package that assertive gameplay was coming in, that I didn't think it was going to be something that people were going to be put off by her. She's comes across, I think, as very genuine and charming. And I think a lot of people were not going to look at her as a threatening figure. And I thought she had a good chance. I also thought that in being partnered potentially with Caleb, and they had been talking about, positively about each other in the preseason, I thought that he might be that shield that's in front of her, that if the shot comes, it's coming for Caleb, as we did see from Emily, where it's like, hey, we got to break up Caleb and Sabaya. Let's go for Caleb. I thought that he would also be there to sort of like absorb some heat for her.
Those were all great reads. And also she really, I mean, I thought she did such an artful job of diffusing kind of Emily when Emily came for her at Tribal Council, and she's like, oh, there's these two, they're a pair, they're strong, they've got the alliance here. And, for her, the way she sort of handled it and gently, not in a way that, I mean, at least, to me seemed, like she wanted to get into it with Emily, although, I guess from the interviews, it sounded like that back and forth went on much longer. But, she said, you have, that's in your mind and you've kind of created this narrative and you're isolating yourself with this narrative, like that's not us isolating you. And I thought that was a really thoughtful, beautiful way of saying that.
I want to ask you a little bit about Hannah and her decision to quit the game. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, of course it's disappointing. I mean, I logged onto Twitter this morning and I feel like I saw the backlash to the backlash. Like I never actually saw the backlash. I was more like people being like, don't hate on Hannah. She's getting so much hate right now. We need to support her. And I was disappointed. Of course you're disappointed when someone quits the show. It seems like such a bummer. It takes away from what we're investing in, right? Which is the strategy of the game and who's in, from my personal perspective, took away from Sabaya's opportunity to get rid of her nuisance in Emily. But I thought Penner had a tweet that I thought was really lovely. Kind of had
interesting.
Maybe I should go to the what's his handle? Survivor
Penner. Here, let me read it as Penner, and then I can be like,
great, yeah.
any chance to do Penner, but
it's third one down on his.
Okay, good. I didn't know he's
feed.
Following the season that closely. We might have to see if we can get him on the podcast. Okay,
yeah,
all right. So one of my all-time faves that he said, so someone quit. Infuriating, maybe. Johnny, unfair play, anyone? But Survivor is a game. People quit in games and in life. Everything okay over there? Yeah. Games are mini versions of life, right? That's why we love them. I'm all for the real drama and real struggle out there. Real reality TV. Yeah. So love it.
Sorry that those gardeners outside. Sorry that they absolutely ruined your performance. I think that might cost you an Emmy.
It's okay. Give it to Penner.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me that Hannah wanted to leave, and don't get it twisted. I'm not saying like, oh, this wasn't a quit, because it didn't bother me. But ultimately, if she doesn't want to be here and we have like fun characters that got to stay because of it, then that's fine. That's fine with me. But I'm not also somebody who is applying to be on Survivor and you should have put me in there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Lulu tribe, which is, as people have said, like possibly one of the great hot mess tribes of all time, for them to get to keep their hot mess player. And Emily's a very fun contestant, someone who is, everyone is so politic in this day and age, and generally, and certainly on Survivor. And the fact that she just comes out swinging, when was the last time? I mean, you had to think about like Dom and Chris, in Ghost Island. Like you don't see people like in those early moments really like go after someone like that.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you know about this. So from the preseason, that they do all these psych evaluations on everybody. And so that they told Emily, and she talked about this in her preseason interviews, that they told the psychologist told her, hey, you have the same exact psychological profile as, do you know this?
Well, I do know it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. As Cass. And so that's your one-time tribe mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
did you see that?
Um, honestly, I mean, from what I saw Cass on her second time when she was obviously, and I also
Kumbaya
saw,
Cass.
yeah, exactly. And I saw also Cass, who's a little older and is a mom. And so I saw Cass, like, who was very good at kind of finding her group and blending in and like encouraging discussion. And that did not seem to be, and Cass did flame out, she kind of went out in a ball of fury in Cambodia. But when we were on Bion together, it was a very like lovely,
Mhm.
non-combative, like not, easy to get along with person. So the Cass I saw was very different than the Emily I saw on television.
Yeah. I loved Emily on the show. I
Yeah.
have some disagreements with the way that she's playing the game, because even if she has these thoughts, like, and I think that like a lot of her thoughts are like good thoughts to be having. I think the way that she is like presenting those thoughts, like I feel like that you do not want to bring so much attention to you. Like I think Max Dawson would tell you, it's one thing, you're going to make great TV on the Matt Chat by being a dissenter, but I think it puts like a negative impression in people's minds about somebody that you don't necessarily want to work with. I think that those are sort of like private conversations that you might want to have with some of the other players, or maybe when you get back to your beach with your tribe, like, boy, is everybody like goo goo gaga for Bruce or what?
Yeah, right,
I don't
exactly.
think you necessarily need to say that to Bruce on the mat to start the game.
Yeah, and not to pile on, but to pile on. The other issue I had with her was that, she had some reads, right? She had a read. If these people come back without an item, then they might have gotten an advantage. And on Survivor, you have to trust your reads, but you also have to realize that your reads might be wrong. It's like a field of truthiness rather than a fact.
Yeah.
And she was like too in on her reads. Like you kind of have to be like, this is my read, but like you have to like give there, like allow there to be some kind of like vagary or valence. I don't know. Again, like ignore all my like, word choice today. To the like what you're perceiving, you have to accept the possibility that you could be wrong and not like go all in on your read. I mean, we've certainly saw how that can work out in Heroes versus Villains. And she did, she was like, I have this read. Okay, now I'm like 100% going down this path. They have an advantage. I got to get them out, and it just totally blew up her game.
I think that the things that she was thinking, like, were all like interesting thoughts, but I feel like that those are sort of like one-on-one conversations that she should have been having with the people on her tribe, where if she pulls Sean aside and say like, so what do you think if they come back without something, like you think that they might have an advantage, right? Would that be shady? I think to say it to the group, I think opens yourself up so much to, it's like throwing a name out there early on that I just think it's the type of thing where if you are having that conversation with a person like one-on-one, it's like, hey, we're building rapport, we're just talking. Whereas opposed to if you're doing it with the whole group, I feel like that can be perceived and twisted as bad much more easily and corroborated.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And right. I mean, and then of course you immediately saw Sean kind of go over and, report back. And then, and Brandon was reporting back. I mean, like the other thing was like, she, obviously was not,
a lot of narcs.
Well, yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But I do just want to say that, like, while I think that Emily didn't, I don't think she should be in the mix for the fishy this week, but I loved her as a TV character.
Yes.
And I know you haven't kept up with all the Australian Survivor over the course of the years. Sadly. And I have caught up on a little of it myself in this past year. But my favorite of the international Survivor contestants is King George. And this is not completely dissimilar to how he plays the game. And in my opinion, he is like one of the greatest Survivor characters of any franchise. And he comes out and just says things like as he sees them, and like everybody else can just deal with it. It's been very successful for him. And maybe there's definitely like gender dynamics at play in terms of like why that might end up working better for him as a man as opposed to Emily as a woman, but it doesn't always go great for him. It takes some time for people to warm up to him. Certainly it did in his first season. So I think that I'm hoping Emily is going to be around for a long haul because I think that she could give us really interesting gameplay and television.
And she seemed to acknowledge, like at Tribal Council, she was like, "This is how I'm being perceived." It's like a heightened version. I mean, what did she say? Like weird,
aggressive Emily,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
So like, at least at that point that you're saying like, this is how I'm being perceived, and acknowledging it is kind of the first step to diffusing and maybe fixing it. So, yeah, I mean, there's hope, right? And people have really tough, those first few days. A lot of people are saying, obviously, oh my gosh, she quit on day 3 or whatever about Hannah. Day 3, day 2, whatever day it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure the day.
Yeah, but like, oh my, and it's like the game just began. But like those days are truly among the hardest in the game because there is that just like immediate shock to your system. You don't have some of the things set up, like the routine set up, but these people don't have shelter, they don't have fire, they don't have just like the quality of life stuff. Your diet just dramatically changes, so your body kind of goes into shock. Suddenly you're sleeping outside in the cold, and like maybe you're not totally comfortable like cuddling with the rest of your tribe yet. So those are like truly the hardest days, and I think a lot of people have these kind of shock reactions to that. I mean, we saw that with a lot of people tonight, and it's possible that for Emily, this is part of it. Like that part of what she just became this more intensified version of herself.
Do you see a path for her to turn things around?
Yeah, I mean, we've always talked about this. If you have a bad first impression, this was in our laws of power, right? With if you have a bad first impression, then people are going to be more inclined to be, to like you later if you can ingratiate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Survivor has like a long history of people who have bad starts. I mean, Brandon had a bad start of his own, and you certainly feel like that there's the potential for him to turn things around, and maybe for Emily, she could do the same. I want to ask you about, have you heard about the twist that
I did? I was like desperately scrambling because I saw Mike Bloom refer to it, and I was like scrambling to figure out what this was so that I wasn't like a total ignoramus on the podcast. I think I kind of roughly pieced it together.
All right. So a couple of things that we learned here today. So, okay, I think that this first came up. So Jeff Probst was at the tail end of this week's On Fire official Survivor podcast
with Rick Devens,
co-host, our friend Rick Devens joined.
Our friend and our competitor
at Fortnite.
Yeah, he's not really competition.
Yeah. So we got to hear Jeff came on. Also, we found out that Jeff does not like survivors that have casting advice businesses. And he had some choice words for anybody.
Yet,
for anybody that we might know who might be helping survivors with casting. So after that he talked about this twist that ultimately got cut from the first episode, and maybe 90 minutes isn't enough time for push. Where's the campaign for 2 hours Survivor episodes, Stephen?
That's right. It starts today.
Yeah, we didn't have enough time to get to this, but the winning tribe got to send somebody back to the beach. And so that it was Kendra who got sent back to the beach, and she got to be part of the strategic conversations before Tribal Council. And I did my exit interview with Hannah. That should be up. If it's not up yet, be up shortly. And she talked about how Kendra was actually very active in all those conversations. Jeff said in the On Fire podcast that Kendra got to cast a vote at Tribal. She got to put a vote into Tree Mail. She did not attend Tribal Council. And she actually voted for Brandon.
Wow, interesting. Well, you think like, I wonder why? Because you think like that's like, if you're on the other tribe, you like want to keep Brandon around.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I don't like. We'd have to find out like at some point in the future of like, was she like doing a solid for somebody, or like did she like tell her that did she were people not giving her any info, right, and maybe thinking, okay, well, Brandon is probably going to get voted out of this group, and I'm just going to like make my vote disappear.
Right. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And there was some talk, right, that like it was kind of back and forth between whether they voted out Emily and Brandon. That leads me to my next question, Rob. Do you think that how do you feel about Jeff saying we don't even need to vote?
So I read a lot of the press. I think that maybe he might have said this he did a conversation with Dalton. And I think that what Jeff said was if anybody said like, hey, let's like, why don't we go vote? That he would have definitely let them vote.
But that puts it on them. Like if the baseline is we're doing a vote, and then Jeff's like, hey, do you guys really need to vote? And suddenly you're the person saying, yeah, I want to vote. Like, that puts you in a very uncomfortable
I think this
position.
is a good lesson for Survivor players that maybe they do need to like have that Emily gear in their like back pocket a little bit, where that they need to like, hey, if for whatever reason it's important that you want to like cast a vote, it's like, well, maybe we should just cast a vote just to be fair to everything.
Right,
like, and maybe just throw it out there. Like, I don't think that Jeff is really going to push back. Like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think we.
Because I wonder, like, if they had gone to a vote, I still kind of wonder if Emily would have gone. Like, even after everything she said, like, it really seemed, like a couple of the people were, hemming and hawing, and I like Caleb, Sabaya, and I wonder, they might have, and I wonder if Brandon would have not wanted to vote, Hannah out.
I do think that Hannah implied so strongly, that I really would like to leave. So it's like, okay, well, let's go up, let's cast our votes. And now the tribe votes out Emily, and Hannah's like, I wasn't joking. Okay. I'm leaving also. So now you're down 2 people.
Yeah. Well, no, she implied, she said like, that this, I don't have to get voted out to leave this game. I mean, but I don't know, like if I still think like the onus should be on like, the players should have to vote because like, again, like that, the whole thing, I mean, I get it. Like, and probably they also, the production didn't want to like suddenly be down 2 players in episode 1.
Yeah. I get the sense that, Hannah must have said like, I'm leaving no matter what. And then it's like, okay, well, is everybody good with this? It's like, okay, well, if she's leaving, what choice do we have?
Right. Yeah. But I still think like they shouldn't have been forced to like make that choice. Like that should, the default should be vote her out. Like then go in and I get like, they want to wrap it up quickly, but they can yada yada that in the edit. If the vote is still for Hannah, then like they can yada yada that.
I just think, what if it's not? That's
on them. They made a terrible or interesting or great choice. Like what an interesting.
Who did? Who made it a terrible, interesting, great production?
No. Like if the players voted out Emily, even knowing that Hannah was about to quit, like what an interesting choice for the players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess so. That would have been an interesting choice, but I don't know. I think that it was just so clear cut that she wanted to go. Did you hear any of Hannah's exit press?
I saw like a clip that like, that she's getting harassed, which is not
I guess, yeah. Well, look, never underestimate the low bar, that some of the fans on the internet can behave. And she said people are leaving her like negative reviews on her business and like, hey, listen, Survivor fans, you're better than that. Leave that to Big Brother fans to do that kind of crap. Keep that out of Survivor. I know we've got a Survivor legend in the Big Brother house right now, but still, we don't need to resort to that kind of behavior.
The nice thing is it will pass by next week, and they'll be harassing someone else at their place of work.
Sure. So people were very upset ultimately about that. We've talked a lot about the group that went to Tribal Council. Who else impressed you in night number 1?
Let's see. I mean, obviously, on the Bello tribe, there was the Women's Alliance, which seemed to be, strong. Like Kendra was very fun. I mean, obviously the whole Couture Jake thing was very fun, where she kind of was like throwing him under the bus about being a lawyer.
I think that Women's Alliance is going to stick.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a good one.
And really, not since we had in Yasa in season 41, and ultimately, that didn't end up sticking as we got into the merge. Then, like I could see this 3 going all the way into the second half of the game.
Yeah. Now, I mean, let's talk about Bruce because he's in the chat. obviously was thrilled to see him back. It was, so exciting. I mean, this is so uncomfortable. Like, but no, it was really great to see him back.
Why? What? So what? Like already we have to kowtow to Bruce just because he's in the chat? What's so great about Bruce? Already he gets special treatment because he's in the chat.
And anyone who supports me in any way, I'm gonna obviously be biased towards, right? Like if they're gonna be here giving my good friend Rob Cesternino one more view on YouTube. My gosh, of course. I
again we have to already we're treating him different.
Well, yeah. It is interesting. Like, I do think there is like a distinctive, I mean, to Emily's point, like, I think there is a distinct advantage to like have gone through all of the emotional part of like getting out there playing. Like I was just saying, those first few days are like so hard. There's such a shock to the system. In Bruce's case, quite literally, like a real shock to the system. To have that kind of familiarity and comfort is an advantage. I mean, it's obviously not, like, to Bruce's point, like not a game-changing advantage. I did really like that he said weaving palm fronds is a huge waste of time. Like every season I've been on, there's been so much palm frond weaving, and like never have I used like a palm frond mat for anything.
It was hard for Bruce because I think he was like really like I don't want to say this, but like palm fronds are useless. Okay, I can't help myself. There is some irony though for people who are in like the CBS multiverse right now that here comes Bruce, who was on Survivor for 12 hours, comes back to season 45, treated like absolute royalty legend by the other contestants. Oh my God, can you believe it's Bruce? Yeah. Meanwhile, Suri goes into the Big Brother house. People are like, do we know you from something? Like, have we met you? Like, you seem nice and everything, but are you? Should we know you?
Yeah.
Anyway, but. I thought that Bruce got a very favorable response, and even I think that the Emily thing helped him in that it
diffused. It took it out. It took the air out of that comment because like someone said it, and that someone was very hostile. So it kind of was like he could respond to that in a more like playful, fun way.
Yeah, like hey, like I'm just minding my own business. I can't believe people see the people are coming at me already, and like Bruce, we love you. Like we're not. Yeah, don't let her get you down. Like, it's just, it stinks, man. I didn't even get to do anything. Yeah. So, I think that really, I think in a way that helped Bruce more than it hurt him.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, ultimately, he's in such a tough spot. I mean, that whole like uncle versus, kooky uncle versus, father figure thing. Like, how do you not share your limited, you're limited, like you're in that position, like they're weaving the palm fronds. Like, how do you not say something? I mean,
let me ask you. Stephen, and Bruce is a peer of ours, a contemporary. Do you want to be seen as more of the uncle than the dad?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just like, oh, I'm the fun kind of like, I got some advice, but like I'm not, not my responsibility.
I feel like, do I give off uncle vibes?
No, you're the stern father figure. Yeah. Cruel, demanding. Father. It's never enough for you, Rob. We can never please you.
I'm your father. Act like it.
You
got treat me like you're like some fun uncle. Because I'm not.
Exactly.
Do your homework. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Rob, 100% cool uncle vibes. Well, I don't even give off uncle vibes, let alone cool anything. Come on, let's not get too carried away.
Yeah.
All right. What about the other tribe?
Reba tribe. I mean, obviously Rob, are you more of like, would you say there's a difference for you between Rob and Cesternino?
Very few people call me Cesternino. Like it's very few. So feel like no difference.
Yeah, I've never really. I mean, I guess I've been Fishbach.
You've been Fishbach. You're Fishbach to a lot of people. Is there a difference between Stephen and Fishbach?
Well, Fishbach, I feel like Stephen is more competent. Fishbach is obviously a lot clumsier. He's got a lot of I don't know, more issues. Yeah. So obviously the little alliance brewing between Jay Maya and Drew. She wants to listen to his poetry. Like, my God, if only. Yeah.
Oh, do you have poetry you've recited poems?
I haven't written. It's true. I was not. And Drew was like, oh, I'll write some like while I'm out here. That's pretty good. Like on the spot. That's coach. That's coach level of poetic.
Stephen, I thought that both of our quote unquote Survivor nerds came across pretty well in episode number 1. Brando, both well, like our true Survivor nerd.
Like, aren't like
archetypes.
16 of these contestants Survivor nerds?
I guess I might have been, I might have been texting with Tyson the other day, and I was saying like, boy, I was a nerd back in like old school Survivor. I think if I came back now, I'd be like the JT of my tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, boy, we're lucky. We've got a real strong alpha male on our tribe, like Rob. That'll help us in the challenges. We got Cesternino.
Yeah. Listen, I've seen your arms, Rob. Like that's legit. That's a real thing.
Yeah, me and Boston Rob's like, hey, this loser nerd, get him out of here.
Yeah, I've talked about this with Cochran too. Like back in there was one nerd and you were the only nerd. Now, like, oh my gosh, there's like everyone else. How like nice would that be? You get on the tribe, everyone is a nerd.
Like, oh my god, like Rob's the merge boot in this season.
Right? Yeah. Oh, exactly. Challenge beast.
Yeah. The golden boy, Cesternino. Challenge dominance. If we don't get him out now, he'll win all the immunities. Yeah.
Very fun. Yeah, very fun from I mean, didn't see much from Brando, but he did seem to have like a good spirit about it. I mean, like trying to carry those logs, that poor guy. And yeah, like the Drew thing. I mean, Drew seems like a confident, self-assured version of the archetype. So yeah.
I had been hoping that like when they got everybody off on the island together to do the Sweat versus Savvy, like I was kind of like hoping like, oh, it would be fun if there was like some sort of like Exile Island alliance type thing that could be going on.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been a good opportunity to be able to like have some chance for these two pairs to sort of commingle and like have some kind of shared secret?
That's a great point. It could have been like it's like they could have like had like the fun of the journey, like that they had like the mountaintop journey that they've had in the previous seasons without like the tedium of the mountaintop journey that they've had in the previous seasons on Shipwheel Island. Like have a few moments and then they compete against each other.
Yeah. Did you like the time trial element that both the tribes got nothing? Like, what was the point of competing? And then it's also like, and then if you don't finish, then nobody gets anything.
Honestly, I did like it. I feel like I saw a lot of hate to the Sweat versus Savvy competition, but I liked it. Like, first of all, I loved it.
Most people liked it.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I maybe it's like the people I follow are negative about it.
Your group chats. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was just Shannon, honestly. Like, she's not a fan of well, maybe, I value her opinion highly. So, if she's saying it, probably a lot of other people should be. But it was really fun. And I like that them both failing is so fun because then everybody is suspicious of everybody. And it also creates more hardship, which, previously they've always had a machete, right? So no tribe has not had a machete for those first few days.
I don't know. I'm not the world's greatest machete expert.
Yeah. But I mean, it seems like that would be a real hardship to not be able to like chop bamboo. Like you can't open coconuts, you can't like strike flint. I mean, you can't do any of the real essentials. And
that's again, why Russell wanted to hide the machete once upon a time.
Yeah. I mean, but like, in terms of like Hannah's quit, like too, like that is, I mean, that's a real hard couple of days she experienced, like, not being able to assemble shelter, not being able to like really eat anything. That's hard.
Yeah. What do you think about the evolution of the Survivor quit from how once upon a time it was really like, okay, this is persona non grata, like, okay, let's lay down Austin's torch to where we're at now?
Yeah. I mean, I guess Jeff said that he would, he didn't want to like be too harsh because he knew that like the internet exists now and like there were going to be plenty of people who were super harsh. Although I do wonder, like, if Jeff were harsher, would fewer people be harsh because like they felt like there was, it just vis-a-vis your point about like, Emily and Bruce, like this Jeff kind of like channeling that frustration we felt, would that have been like an outlet for it? But yeah, I mean, I wish she hadn't had like, I felt like her music was a little bit too positive. Like maybe her exit music could have been a little bit more like, wah, wah. But other than the exit music, I
thought like loser quitter music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's hard because I think that like for, back in that day, and he talked about this on the On Fire podcast about him, that he said that he felt like that, back in the day, he was the voice of the audience. And now the audience has its own voice. And so he doesn't need to be that hard. I do think that there is a little bit of a like it's different in that Jeff is so involved in the casting process that it's almost like, he like was like part of the team that brought her here. Whereas opposed
Right.
to like Once Upon a Time, it was like, okay, Lynn Spillman was like signing off on a bunch of people and Jeff's in the room, but it wasn't really his call. And so he had like a little bit more like, get out of here. You make me sick, Austin. Whereas like, okay, well, it's like you picked me.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, again, like I think it could. I do sort of think like there should be a little bit of shame, like TJ Levin when someone disappoints him on the challenge. He's you can really feel it. Like you feel like tough dad just kind of like let him down. It's a little bit.
Personally, it didn't bother me so much just because I felt like that we're still getting so like okay, somebody that I thought was going to be better TV was about to get voted out, and so instead. You got somebody who wanted to leave. Okay, fine. You go keep the person that I think is going to be creating more interesting drama on the show. And so for me, but I guess I'm sort of like more looking at it big picture.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that. I didn't really, again, like it's sort of like a disappointing moment because of the expectation, like the narrative of the show.
But we've had people like Medevac. So like it's not necessarily like the most like sort of like wet fart ending to season premiere of Survivor. But
well, that's what I loved about Penner's comment, which is this is part of a game. It's part of life. Like this is part of the experience. Like you don't want. I mean, the one thing that Survivor fans complain about more than anything is when it feels like the show is like too rigorously produced to be a certain way, and like the human aspect of the show is someone being like, this is too much for me. I can't do this anymore.
It is an interesting category of people who've gone out of the show because I had forgotten about Johnny Fairplay, where he had gotten sort of like power bombed by Danny Bonaducci right before he went out, and he was on like a lot of pain meds that he's coming off of. Another one I think that might be in this category is kind of like Zane Knight, who also was like another smoker came out and he was like playing like super hard, but then was kind of like a little bit like, okay, fall on my sword here.
Oh, you think Zane deliberately? I thought it was just like one of the most confusingly bad strategies ever. That like tell everyone.
I would have to go back to.
You think he deliberately wanted to go?
I think he might have wanted out. Just to go back to the chat might have a better recollection of this, but I think it was also the same sort of thing where he was like a smoker who was like really having a hard time out there. Yeah. So yeah, I think that this is like its own like sort of special category of like, hey, like please, mercy.
But why not go off cigarettes before Survivor? Like that maybe is the worst thing she did. Like it wasn't quite cigarettes that she was she talked about it in her exit interview with me. I think she thought she was going to be able to do it cold turkey, and it was like I think she said it was one of the factors but not the only factor. I see. Okay. Yeah. Well, but like if your body is in withdrawal from something, it's hard. Yeah. All right, Stephen, Fishy award for this episode. It might be a little bit of a tough one for a Fishy. It's tough. I mean, I thought the use of the buffs in the challenge was extremely innovative. That's a game changer. Who came up with that, though? You can't see. Like, you see a couple of people lowering it. I think, actually, Emily is one of the people who's got the holding on to the buff. And maybe Sean is one of the other people. Fishy for the buff because it's basically indestructible? Well, I Fishy for the buff. Yeah, I guess buff product placement. My gosh, like Jeff calling. I mean, I would not have thought a buff would be able to like lift up 150 pounds without ripping. Yeah, I mean they had two buffs, so the way it was split between two. But incredible. Yeah, truly incredible. I mean, who else would you even give it to? I mean, Kendra, I guess, seemed to drive the alliance. Katurah for sure. Mm-hmm. Caleb or Sabaya maybe. I mean, listen. Yeah, I'll give it to Sabaya. That's Sabaya, absolutely. She was in the driver's seat, truck driver's seat. And she was in the dominant position, still had to make the tough call. Sabaya, out of just like pure favoritism. What did you, I'm sure you've talked it to death, but what did you got to give credit to Brandon too for just having such a good attitude. Like, I mean, what a nightmare for anybody to like be such a fan of the show, go out, have like what appeared to be like a massive multi-day panic attack, incapacitated, and then still just like have the wherewithal to be like, I love this, I want to be here, to be like joking, to be in good spirits, to be like offering consolation to somebody else. Like that's hard, and like good on him. I mean, like, you know, he knows he's going to look silly on TV. And he was able to sort of, you know, overcome it a little bit.
Yeah, and so apparently his struggle was actually worse than we saw on television. You know, we saw everything that happened with him trying to get back up the ladder and get back into the boat. But according to Hannah, she said that medical was working on him for quite some time. He was like pale as a ghost. And so I think that there was like a non-zero chance that he was going to be a medical evacuation, I think, of Brandon, like in that first episode. And he's ultimately able to come back from that. So like, I thought it was a little bit like when Jeff's like, all right, we're going to have medical take a look at you. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I feel like,
yeah, whenever he says that, something, you know, they don't put that in the episode usually unless there's really, you know, something.
Yeah. And Bruce is like, oh man.
But the funniest part of that ladder thing to me, and I tweeted this too, was like Sean like literally like climbing over Brandon and like running back to his tribe. Like,
he's got to get up to pull him up.
Leaving, but he didn't pull him up. He like ran back to his team until like finally someone said like, "Hey, why don't you help him?
Yeah,
why don't you help the guy? Like, what on earth was that?"
I don't think it's been talked about enough. Also, that I thought Sean had a pretty good first night. I think that Sean is somebody who set up pretty well. I was a little worried about him from the preseason in terms of like, I didn't see how he was necessarily going to fit in with the tribe, but I think that he's like a really solid like person in the middle where I feel like that he could be having like communication with Caleb and Sabaya, and then also like talking to like some of the unhappy campers about what's going on. So I think he's set up really, really well.
Yeah, and he and did seem to be kind of in, you know, all the conversations for
positive attitude. So
yeah,
very good. Can I give just like a little like meta analysis about Emily, where I feel like that Emily painted as being like such a like negative person. I think that was also like part of the show about like how Emily doesn't fit in here with, because she's so negative about everything, about how she like thinks that every idea that people have is bad. Is that you, like Rob? Anybody? Is that like anybody we know, Survivor community?
They don't come up with their own ideas. Emily is just saying no.
All the ideas are bad,
and she doesn't bring anything to the table.
Yeah.
Obviously, people who have not seen our Survivor think tank.
Stephen, we've got questions for you from the listeners of the podcast, and so let's see. How about some questions? All right. A lot of things that we've talked about. Okay, Michael Butler O'Rear Jr. on the subject of Emily wants to know, is there an advantage to speaking out against the other team on the tribe mat the way that Emily did?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think everyone's like, yeah, this is our teammate. We're because like you don't even know these people yet. I think it draws attention to you in a negative way. I mean, I think a little like banter or S talk is okay. Like, but it seemed like she was really going for him like repeatedly, and to me that seemed like she was just advertising that she was somewhat adversarial.
Yeah, I feel like that. Maybe like later on in the game where it's like, okay, I'll speak for the group here. Like, I feel like, you know, we don't know why there's so, like everybody's loving Bruce. He's not so great. I think our team's looking pretty good. What do you say? You know, it wasn't even like that. But, you know, in talking with Hannah this morning, you know, she had lots of positive things to say about Emily. And she said that she really admired how Emily like was brave to say the things that might have been on other people's minds. And so maybe that's a characteristic that people like come to admire in her over the course of the day.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, that could be. And that's right. And probably a lot of them were thinking it. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, like you're in a fugue. Those first few moments, you're like, oh my God, what is he going to say to me? Like, what would my answer to this question be? Should I have said something about Bruce? Like you're like so in your head. Like nobody probably even heard what Emily said.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Except Bruce.
All right. Let's have a question about Brandon. We know that Rob thinks it might have been a strategic move when Brandon announced the play is shot in the dark. What do you think? Panic or strategy, Stephen? Did you think there's anything to that?
You think strategic? To me, that seemed like
I thought it might have been a little bit
like you don't vote for me, like because
I thought it might have been a little bit like the Matthew thing from last season of like, hey, well, I don't have to cast a vote for anybody tonight,
right.
so and Shot in the Dark is pretty worthless anyway. Brandon's a super fan. Maybe I thought there could have been something there. Hannah seemed to think that like, no, she felt like that was 100% genuine and there was no strategy involved.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting read. I mean, but like, what Caleb said, I think is extremely apt, right? Like we're extending trust to this person and he's not giving it back to us. Like, I have always said, it's when you are in that voting booth with someone that when you're writing those names down, like that's how you prove your alliance. That's how you prove you can trust people. And to squander that opportunity on the first vote, like if it was strategy, it was terrible strategy. I think like, honestly, like I'm not sure which, panic I think is a better explanation because I would hate for that to have been his strategy.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tommy Guam wants to know, Stephen, what about the lawyer versus lawyer, or is that more of a suits thing?
I don't know. It does seem like people are like more afraid of lawyers. My God, I guess they're like actually. I mean, I guess like have there been a lot of lawyer winners of the show? Like Nick Wilson won.
Nick
Cochran wasn't a lawyer, but he was a former law student.
Yeah.
Buell,
so Nick won, and Nick was also had the same lie that Jake has, I believe, right? That he was or he was a prosecutor. No, I think maybe when he went like
I think Nick was a defender, wasn't he?
I mean, Stephen, you're more of the expert on the ins and outs of Nick Wilson, but I think that maybe he was a defense attorney, public defender when he played the first time, and then he wasn't a public defender. I think when he went back for Winners at War, he had.
Interesting, but anyway, a lawyer nonetheless. So I mean, it is possible that lawyers do do better than most other professions.
Yeah, I think there's 4 lawyers on this season. Julie's a lawyer. Katura is a lawyer. I know Jay Maya was going to go to law school.
Jake, obviously a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's like a lot of lawyers.
Yeah. Too bad that they could. This was the old days. We would have had like lawyers versus what are some other versus lovers
versus losers. I think they've got a good squad for all this.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty good. Okay, yeah. Eric Laval says they need to team up with Lawyers R Us Alliance. Yeah, but yeah. Joe says Survivor 47. Oops, all lawyers. That could be good too. Yeah. Yeah. All right. How about Sifu? We haven't talked a lot about Sifu yet.
No.
Okay. Aaron Flea Sperling says, is Stephen caught Sifu spy bunkering this early in a post-Tony world? Would he target him or keep him around and make him a shield?
That's actually a really interesting question. Like, I think like you do sort of have to assume the guy who is running all over the place is maybe has some. I mean, someone I don't remember who said it, but someone was like, oh, he's got to have at least 2 or 3 advantages by now. It's like not get inflated, about the possibilities here. Only Val Collins has that skill with idols. He then at the same time, like he is such a target. I mean, Tony would keep him around, right? Like Tony would want to keep Sifu.
He's a lion. Yeah.
And just as someone who's going to like be there, always absorbing attention. Yeah, I guess I would want to be in an alliance or like a stealth alliance, a stealth RS alliance with Sifu.
I guess in the new era, like how bad does Sifu have to play before his tribe says, let's vote out Sifu? These 6-person tribes, okay, one of the biggest guys out there. Like, I mean, when we talk about like the disparity between, voting out the men and voting out the women, like if you have like a man who is a big physical threat in these challenges, I mean, what would he have to do that the tribe's like, all right, we're thinking seafood tonight?
I mean, I couldn't believe the yellow tribe was immediately targeting Caleb. Like, I guess
don't say the yellow tribe. Emily was targeting Caleb.
Well, right, that's fair. And like she was talking to Brandon and Hannah, and they were agreeing with her, and then immediately going. And honestly, from Emily's perspective, like maybe it's not a terrible idea. Like just be like, yeah, if the 3 of us vote together, we've got 9 days here before they got to swap us eventually.
Yeah, if you're Emily, I mean, I can, and people are like, well, why would she ever want to target? It's like, okay, well, if you are that convinced, and I'm not saying that she's right, but in her mind, she's like, okay, well, I'm on the outs with Caleb and Sabaya. So if I have like no hope with them, or a long shot of like with this ragtag of people that like are like barely
don't want to be here,
like they're
collapse on
having
the ground,
or having all this anxiety, but at least I'm the leader of this group, maybe she's like, okay, well, maybe like me and Sean are coming out of this as like the Ricard and Shan.
Yeah. I've always said it's better to be a head among sheep than a tail among lions. Like, then you're the leader of the sheep. You don't want to be the tail of the lions. You're getting pooped on.
Yeah. Well, that's well said.
Yeah.
Okay. Got some more questions for you. Okay. How about Rachel wants to, will anybody ever volunteer for Sweat versus Savvy again?
Yeah, no real upside, right? If the only upside is that you get to bring the Flint back, but I mean, I guess you like have a bonding experience with someone, but like you also miss out on a bonding experience with 3 other people. I would not volunteer I would not choose to do that.
We haven't talked too much about Caleb. Ben W wants to know, when I look at Caleb, I think he has a lot of the tools to do really well, but I think it's obvious that he got a raw deal with the tribe divisions. Being the only physical guy on his tribe forces him to be more in the spotlight as a physical threat. How can somebody in that situation manage their threat level when the merge comes?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, honestly, it could be good for him because he's not going to be like the physically dominant guy on a physically dominant tribe. Like his tribe is going to do so badly that it will like kind of like drag him down. But I mean, he's like, he was like the first out of the gate on I think the running in the immunity challenge. He's the tallest person out there. Well, maybe not taller than Drew, but he seems to be like probably the most fit person overall out there. Is that a reasonable statement?
Yeah, I think it depends on what your definition of fit is. Like, I feel like that Sifu and Austin
mentally fit, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
but
emotionally fit, we don't know.
I said the same thing the other night of that. I feel like that Caleb does seem like he is a person that does not have a flaw in his game to speak of. He also seems like that he's smart and knows the game and is very social and outgoing. And like, I think that's a package that is like a recipe for disaster because how does he not get voted out?
Right, exactly. And so I think maybe in some ways it's a good thing, like, because like truly, like if he were on that tribe that kept winning and winning, it might be really dangerous for him. But to be on the losing tribe, it could be like a Jonathan situation where like he gets like those, like he gets those like strong bonds with a group of people. And then B, like that group is like conceived of as less of a threat come the merge. So like it's more, he has more room to play the game. And than he would if he was just like, hey, I'm the super strong guy on the winning tribe, and now at the merge, just vote me out.
If you're a player like Caleb, do you think that you need to be even more out there looking for the advantages? Do you need to be like really pressing?
Oh, that's funny. Like, why bother hiding it? Because they're coming for me anyway. Like, I might as well like be in charge of all like the trinkets and magic toys. That's an interesting idea. What do you think? You obviously think that.
I think that probably in his position, especially like at his tribe, like, I mean, what at this point in time, like, if he does have like that good relationship with Sabaya, like where's the insurgency coming from?
Right.
That you're probably going to go to tribal council like a few more times. Like if it's like maybe Caleb and Sabaya and Sean, like maybe are the people that like come away from this tribe. Like it's probably not the worst idea to try to see if you could rack up some advantages.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a smart move. I mean, if you're him though, you must also be thinking like, I don't need like any more of a target than I've got. Like, but I guess like if you're the biggest target, why? Yeah, there's no real downside. That's funny.
They're coming for either way.
Yeah, I mean, Joe used to like go always out idol hunting like all the time, and I was like, yeah, I guess if you're like Joe, like you're not, you're the focal point of my admiration. So yeah, why not?
Okay, this is a question from Kyle who says, can Stephen talk through the unseen twist of the additional tribe member and what effect that this might have on the game moving forward?
The additional tribe member, the one like this
twist that we didn't see in the episode. If they do it, I think that the rumor is that this was going to be a part of this season. I don't know if they cut it like for everything or if they only.
There's going to be every episode.
I am under the impression that I think that that's what the rumor was. I had kind of forgotten about that, but the rumor was that this is going to be a part of the season.
Wow. Well,
it is weird that they cut it here, which makes me think that like, okay.
Right.
why would they not want to establish it in the first episode?
Well, in the first episode, they did have a lot to establish. Like there's obviously the first episode is the most crammed, and especially when it's a 90-minute episode, and every other episode is 90 minutes. Like they may have a little bit more flexibility in the later episodes, but then they have to do a lot of explaining.
I mean, they spent a lot of time on Sweat versus Savvy. If they had this other twist that they wanted to set up, I think they did 2 segments there.
Maybe they could do a flashback. As we all remember, Kendra was at tribal council, and then do a flashback.
But she didn't go to tribal council with them. She was just at the beach.
Oh, so she doesn't go to tribal. She just casts a secret. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. As we all remember, Kendra's at the beach. Just show her.
Oh, the flashback, we didn't. It wasn't in the episode, but actually, what happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, but okay, but how do you think that this might affect some of these pre-merge votes if there's somebody who's hanging out at the camp?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, I guess you are going to be maybe safer. I don't know. Or does it make you a little riskier if you know that there's another vote that can help swing your tribe dynamics? It does kind of give you the opportunity to take bigger swings, right? And yeah.
Okay. I don't know. So,
I mean, it would be less stable, right? Because if there were, you're in a tribe of 5 and there were a 3 and a 2, and then suddenly you've got this third person come in who their goal is to destabilize your tribe, that could really change the politics.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because it's okay, we're part of a group, and we're planning this blind side that's going to be at tribal council. Okay, so it's we're talking, and it's almost okay, well, now there's a third party here that we don't know necessarily where they stand in all this, and it's almost we have to kind of keep them out of our conversations. We don't want them running back, and it's okay, now, the person that who are we trying to blindside, Stephen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, no, give me a person.
Oh, okay. You're actually asking that question. Yeah. We're trying to blindside D.
Okay, so D is doing a confessional. Okay, she's in her interview. All right, everybody, here's the plan. But now we got this other person over here that we can't have that same conversation because we don't know if Kendra is going to go back and tell D, hey, they're talking about you. It's going to be you tonight. What? What do you mean?
Yeah.
So I do think it could have to make for these blind sides to be even harder to pull off.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. I mean, it's a fun idea in that it's I mean, do you like it? Is it a fun idea? I think it's a fun idea.
I think it's fun. I think it's worth a try. And if it's a total bust, then I'll own that. But I'll turn my key. I'm in favor of giving this a try. I feel like
we're not like Emily. We're in favor.
This was a stupid idea and one of the worst ideas they've ever come up with in the history of the show.
Yeah.
I don't even know why they're doing it. So yeah, this was to me, I think this is fun. It's not super contrived. It has a basis in things that they've done in the past where people have often gone and whether it's kidnap somebody from the other tribe or bring them over to the other camp. I think it's a good way, especially if they're not going to be doing a lot of pre-merge swaps. It's a good way to get information going on between the tribes. So overall, I'm in favor of it. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as an ongoing mechanic, once it's established, it feels a little more of a rupture. But once it's part of the game, then it's oh, this is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Stephen, let me just bring in something that Aaron said. Aaron added that I want to add my voice to the thank you for making time for Know-It-Alls camp. I cannot imagine what watching this show without hearing Stephen's take after every episode would be like. I'm fine waiting an extra day, even if it means we get to hear you two squabble.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Aaron. That's so nice. There's nothing I love more than squabbling with Rob.
Yeah, we've been mostly on the same page today, though.
Yeah, that's not fun. I have to get some hotter takes.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just getting smarter.
Maybe that might be it. Maybe. And you're more distracted. So it gives me a chance to catch up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then Ryan says, which player from Reba do you think has the best chance to go deep?
Oh, that's a fun question. I mean, obviously, not obviously. I really like Julie. I thought Julie was fun. I thought her little white lie. There's something more fun to me, and I don't know why, about Julie being the mom. Being oh, I'm just a mom. And then but actually, I'm an attorney. Because that person that older, I mean, she's 49. My God, that's the older person is so kind of such a type and comes with so much baggage on Survivor. Like, so for them to kind of like pull that sort of, double cross is, I think, a potentially is potentially fun. I mean, we've always kind of said, like, why bother lying about your profession? But I mean, it sure seems like now, like, you've got to,
because I can't say lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Honestly, maybe Drew, I think Drew has upside where I think his persona, is going to help him against kind of what the expectations are. He seems to have a lot more social acuity than maybe when you see this, like, pale, super skinny, bespectacled guy. You think, oh my gosh, like, that's the super nerd. And then Basile comes out, and then, boy, are you wowed.
Yeah. He's a fun personality. He had some good interviews from the preseason, so we'll see what happens with him. All right, Stephen, anything else about the Survivor 45 premiere that you want to get off your chest?
No, I mean, very enjoyable. I liked it. I mean, obviously, it's fun to talk to you, Rob. That's my favorite part about the watching Survivor, is getting to talk to you about it afterwards.
Yeah. Well, look, it's not the same without you, so I'm so glad that we were able to make this work here today. What else do you have going on these days? You just being a full-time dad. You've got the approval of Shane Powers now.
I know, my gosh, this is really like now I really feel like a man, like I've got two kids and Shane Powers, approval. It's great. It's nice. I mean, I'm so tired. Our neighbor today was like, just remember, you'll forget all of this in a few months. I was like, oh, thank God, like this. I can't wait for that. Because you do forget how tough those first few weeks are. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Stephen, hang in there. This was such a treat to get to talk with you about this first episode. Of course, if you missed it last night, I had my podcast with Owen right after the episode. It went very well. Yeah. I mean,
he's a great choice. I was very happy with Owen.
Owen is, a real natural when it comes to this. And he went to the first tribal council in the new era. So he had some perspective on what it's like for this group to go through that. My exit interview with Hannah, we still have our Survivor Q&A with the patrons. And then Maddie from Survivor 44 is going to join me for a feedback show on Monday night. So that should be very fun to catch up with her. And then, of course, everything else we're doing, Big Brother, The Amazing Race, going to talk about buddy games, you keep up with the challenge this season? I know you're a challenge
I'm behind. I've watched, I think, like one episode or like 1.5 episodes. It's great. It's like a really fun season based on that 1.5 episodes.
Doing challenge exit press, not to mention daily suits recaps.
There you go.
Wow. There you go. All right. So it's all happening. All right. So thank you so much. Of course, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts. Go to robhasawebsite.com/subscribe. And if you want to get in on that patron Q&A, robhasawebsite.com/patron. Last thing, next Wednesday night, I'm going to be in New York. We are going to have, Steve, we're going to break the attendance record for the live show coming up on Wednesday night.
Rude.
Yes. We have a new venue.
What's the venue?
You know what? I don't know off the top of my head, but it is.
It sounds like a good one.
900 seat theater. So we have the chance to break some records. We opened up some additional seating. robhasawebsite.com/NYC tickets. It's the Tribeca Performing Arts Center coming up on Wednesday night. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Stephen. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.